athletes of the NWSL, streaming on Paramount+.
We're following breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. We're getting set to announce where four-star prospect Micah Tease will play his college football. The four-star out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, one of the best athletes in the class of 2023. Tease had 27 offers to consider as one of the top athletes in the class. He took visits to some of the most competitive programs in the country. And of course, that leads to a very prospective list. It's narrowed down to Arkansas, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and USC. The 5'11", 180-pound Tease rated the 11th athlete prospect, number 4 in the state of Oklahoma, according to the 24/7 Composite Index. He's a multi-sport guy. On top of football, he competes in track, running in the 100-meter and 400-meter relay. And we are now happy to welcome in Micah Tease as he gets set to make the big announcement here on CBS Sports HQ. Thanks for joining us here, Micah. How you feeling today?
And I'm feeling pumped up and excited to announce this decision.
Okay, so let's start with how difficult was this decision for you? There's some very prestigious schools on your list. How tough was it to narrow things down?
It was very tough. Taking every visit, I seen something new at every other school. It's crazy that I'm at this point, but after some great plans, some making decisions with my family, talking it out, and writing everything down, pros and cons. I'm finally ready to announce my decision.
And Micah's got his mom with him, his dad, and his brother. Micah, not everyone gets the opportunity to go through the recruitment process. How would you describe that process to someone who doesn't really know that much about it?
It has its ups and downs overall, but it's very exciting. It's a very exciting process, and it's nothing like it. You only get this once. You only get this once. After this, the team picks you, so you only get this once. But I can say for anybody out there, just embrace this moment, man. Enjoy it.
So when you're assessing all of these schools and all these programs, what factors were you looking at specifically?
At the time when I first started my decision making, proximity, it didn't really bother me as much. But as I got into my decision more, proximity started to matter more. Production, a life outside of the field, education, of course. If I have opportunity to come in and play too.
Now, the scouts and the guys who watch you talk about your speed, the athletic ability on both sides of the football. You play offense and defense. How do you classify your game?
Explosive, game-changing playmaker.
Is there a guy at the next level that you look up to or try to emulate?
As far as the offensive side, I could probably say Cameron Ridley or Julio Jones. As a defensive side, I could probably say Jalen Ramsey.
Well, your athletic ability is something that's certainly attractive to the schools that are on your list. How much does family and location have to do with the decision that you're about to announce?
Ultimately, it matters. Even though I'll be going away, I still want to have my family be able to come and see me play. That's big. We've been all together, It's just me and my brother, so we've all pretty much got. So we're very close, tight-knit family, so it's very important for them to be able to come and see me.
Okay, Micah, it's almost time. The next time we talk to you, it'll be to make your decision. Sit tight, and we'll be back with you shortly. As mentioned, he's rated as the 7th overall prospect in terms of an athlete, in terms of the position that he's at, and the state ranking sits him at 3 in the state of Oklahoma, 5'11", 180 pounds. That's according to the 24/7 Sports Composite Index. As a junior, he's played 11 games as a wide receiver, recording 31 receptions, 618 yards, and 9 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, 3 interceptions, 4 tackles for loss, and 25 tackles, along with 2 defensive touchdowns. And for more on Tease and what the decision might be for him, let's now welcome in Cooper Patagna from 24/7 Sports. Cooper, what makes Tease such a standout prospect?
Well, he's a dynamic and versatile athlete. We said it. We've been talking about it on all 3 phases. Anywhere you line up Micah Tease, he's going to make an impact. Almost 20 yards per reception on the offensive side of the ball last year at Booker T. Washington. He's a clean route runner. He's dynamic at the catch point and after as well. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we flip the script. He's one of the more versatile secondary defenders in the country. Doesn't matter where you play him, corner, nickel, safety, he'll make an impact. So there's a lot to like. We throw around that football player label a lot, but that's exactly what Micah Tease is.
It certainly opens up the options in terms of what he can do for the school that he decides to go to. The scouting report on 24/7 says he has functional athleticism. Can you break that down for us in terms of what that means on the field?
That might be a little bit conservative, kind of revisiting Micah Tease early this morning. He is a very dynamic and good athlete, I would say. And usually when you play all three phases, that's what that means. And, I alluded to it earlier on the offensive side of the ball, but he's got exceptional short area quickness. I think his ability to separate is second to none. And then you see that on the defensive side of the ball as well. Smooth hips, clean in and out of his breaks, very instinctive, heady football player. But really, I guess when you say functional athlete, in this case of Micah Tease, a guy that can play anywhere on the field.
Cooper, when you see that list of finalists, some competitive programs there. I mean, Arkansas, Notre Dame, USC, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. Given where he's at in his development, is there a system where he fits best, or given the fact that he is so versatile, it's really just a matter of where he chooses to go and then them finding the fit?
I think probably the latter. And when you start to study the player a little bit more, there's a reason that so many of these programs are so hot on the trail of Micah Tease. And like I said, the more you can do, the more boxes you can check, that usually lends to a player that can have an immediate impact at the next level. That's why there's so much to like. But you mentioned it, Arkansas, Texas A&M, a lot of these schools. I think Arkansas, the way Barry Odom uses a lot of these secondary defenders, I think that makes a lot of sense as well.
Cooper Patagna from 24/7 Sports joining us to discuss the upcoming commitment of Micah Tease here on CBS Sports HQ. With that, we're going to take a 60-second break. But when we come back, it is time for the decision. Where will Micah Tease be playing his college football? Oklahoma, Arkansas, Notre Dame. You heard them. Those are some of the late names on the list.
From there, they had spotted me there. Once I started to pick up more, we started to reach out more. They liked me at receiver ultimately and DB as well. But ultimately, my relationship with Coach Guyton, man, at that receiver spot is just unbreakable. So,
When you talked about some of the factors in terms of looking at a lot of these schools, I mean, how close was the decision for you, or was Arkansas just the runaway leader all the time?
It was up and down. It was very much up and down. I can't say these four schools. I was debating between these four schools for a reason. At one point, I was ready to commit to Notre Dame. At one point, I was ready to commit to USC. And at one point, I was ready to commit to Texas A&M. That's part of the process, But after really praying, after writing down all the pros and cons and mapping everything out, Arkansas was the fit for me.
Obviously big for your program. What kind of example are you hoping to be for your teammates and those who come after you?
And it's the standard. We expect nothing more, nothing less than this, really, if we're being honest. This is the standard at Booker T. Washington, and it's going to continue to be the standard.
You thanked your coaches and those that have helped you along the way get to this point. What have your coaches taught you about the game and your game specifically?
Poised. Always staying poised and really being a go-getter, a playmaker, really. They've always taught me to be poised and go make plays and have fun while I'm doing it.
Well, you do it on both sides of the football. These statistics certainly show that. So now that the decision is made, a little bit of weight off your shoulders, what's the focus as you get ready to head into your senior season?
State championship and Gatorade Player of the Year.
Micah, congratulations. All the best as you push your career forward. Good luck as you join Arkansas as part of that class of 2023.
I appreciate it, man. Whoop Pig.
Tease becomes the 6th four-star to commit to the Razorbacks for 2023 and their 19th commit overall. You see what it does in terms of their class ranking. It puts them above the national champions, Georgia, in terms of those rankings. They jump from 7th to 6th. His announcement follows that of TJ Metcalf, cousin of wide receiver DK Metcalf, who committed to Arkansas on Friday. Now that the decision is made, let's welcome back Cooper Patagna from 24/7 Sports for your post-decision thoughts. Why is Tease a good fit for this Razorbacks program?
Well, you mentioned it. He talked about wanting to play on the offensive side of the football, even though he was being courted on both sides. I think that says a lot about Sam Pittman and their flexibility. This is the 4th top 24/7 prospect to commit to Sam Pittman in their top 10 class. And it's been a crazy year. It's been a crazy day in terms of recruiting. But this says so much about how far Sam Pittman and this program have come. They've laid the foundation. And listen, they were number 22 in the 24/7 composite rankings last year, now number 6 right now, coming off a 9-4 season in the SEC. But this is huge advantage a player like this from the state of Oklahoma. Booker T. Washington has always had very good football players, and be able to go into that state and get a guy like that says a lot about what Sam Pittman and the Arkansas Razorbacks are doing.
Okay, so Cooper, when you see a kid like this who's athletic on both sides of the football, can play special teams, you know, when he comes in, when you look at his game, I mean, where does he need to focus?
That's a good question. I think that the next aspect of his game is just really going to be the physical development. In terms of the raw physical tools, I mentioned earlier, in terms of the short area quickness and his ability to separate, I think that's where he's going to excel at the next level. That's going to be the foundation of his game, and he's very versatile. You can play him inside out on the offensive side of the ball, but it's just more the natural progression for him from a physical standpoint. Being in an SEC weight room and strength and conditioning program is certainly going to help that.
Certainly watching his film, speed is one of those things that stands out. He puts a little muscle into that. He's going to be one heck of a player. You heard the class rankings jump. So they go now above Georgia in terms of the class rankings for 2023. So how is this Arkansas class looking under Pittman?
It looks great. If you're an Arkansas fan, you got to be ecstatic about where they are. And we talked about the super conferences, right, where college football is heading. And this is what Arkansas needs to do. I think under Sam Pittman, their MO early has been on the offense and defensive line of scrimmage. So the more playmakers that you can add on both sides of offense and defense skill position, I think that's going to be key for them going forward.
Yeah, and you look at these kids, right? They've got big things to think about.